I run a multi six-figure business while training for the 2028 Olympics, and I do it without the nagging pain, tightness, or crashes that most entrepreneurs just accept as normal. Because here's the truth, guys. If your body isn't firing on all cylinders, you're leaving performance on the table in your training and money on the table in your business. Sure, you might be training hard, but if you're drained after your workouts and you're battling tight hips or lower back pain and Zoom calls just feel like a war to even stay comfortable, then your system isn't optimized. And chances are you've tried all of the right things, your ice baths, your red light, mobility drills, but nothing really sticks. So in this video, I'm going to break down my performance foundation protocol, a three-part system that I personally use and now coach to rebuild your body at the root so it performs how you want without the constant patchwork. All right, before we dive into that performance foundation protocol, guys, I want to give you three clear signs that your body is not fully optimized. And I'm covering this really quickly because so many people normalize this stuff. And because when your foundation is off, it doesn't just show up physically, you're also leaking energy and focus and ultimately income, guys. So, sign number one is that your training leaves you drained. You finish a session, or maybe you wake up the next morning and you just feel like a zombie instead of being sharp and energized. Sign number two is that sitting feels like a battle, whether that's your Zoom calls, your desk work, or maybe even dinner. You're constantly just shifting around in your chair trying to get comfortable. Sign number three is that you're always managing something, whether that's your low back, your hips, your knees. There's always some kind of tightness or tweak that's essentially keeping you from training how you really want to. So if any of that hits, guys, your system is not firing how it should. So let's fix that. Here are the three core parts of the PFP system. Now, the first part of this system is targeted fascial release. And no, I'm not talking about just mashing your tissues with a foam roller. What I'm about to explain is much more precise. So, your fascia is this connective tissue web that wraps around and weaves through your muscles. And it stores tension, it transfers force, and it basically keeps your whole system coordinated. But here's what most people don't realize about fascia. Fascia doesn't just tighten from your training and poor posture, it tightens from stress, not just physical, but also mental and emotional. And so when your nervous system is constantly in this fight or flight mode, whether you're grinding in your business, you're pushing your body in training, or you're just juggling a lot of pressure in your life, your fascia ends up winding up like a coiled spring. And that tension is what locks up your joints, shuts off muscle activation, and it basically creates these compensations that lead to pain and injuries. And this is why so many high performers train and stretch, but still feel locked up. It's not a flexibility issue, guys, it's a system issue. And one of the most powerful ways to reset that system is through targeted release of trigger points. And these are going to be specific areas of bound up fascia that, when released, are going to create instant improvements in your mobility and performance. So let me show you. There's so many different tools we can use to actually release the fascia, but I like to teach with the lacrosse ball because it's simple, you can transport it really easily, and you can also get your hands on one really easily as well. So the biggest mistake I see if you're doing this currently already is that most people do not take the time to actually work with their nervous system to allow it to relax and tone down. Because again, if I'm sitting on this ball right here and I'm rolling out and I'm in a 9 out of 10 pain, I'm gritting my teeth and tightening my traps, and I'm not really paying attention to relaxing and melting my tissues around the ball, well, then you're not really going to be doing too much. You might get a little bit of a change, a little bit of restriction improvement, but you're not really going to be making these lasting changes that I see with anybody who picks this up and does it the way that I'm explaining it. So that's number one. You want to find a point that's really tender, really painful, and you want to ease into it. You never want to feel more than maybe a 7 or a 6 out of 10 pain. If you're feeling too much pain, then maybe you need to regress to something softer like a tennis ball, or you just need to put less weight on that area of your body. And so the next thing from there is that you want to hold that pressure for about 2 minutes, because your fascia needs 2 minutes on average of consistent pressure to actually melt and release. So I'm not just gonna do these big rolls like this the whole time. I'm actually going to be really methodical here. I'm gonna find a trigger point. Okay, there's one. And then I'm going to hold that for a good 2 minutes. I'm just gonna breathe here. I'm gonna relax, and I'm really going to consciously allow my tissues to melt around that ball, guys. And that's the biggest thing. It's your intentionality. If you're present through this process, you're gonna get so much more out of it, as opposed to if you're listening to music, or you're on a call, or you're answering work emails as you're sitting on the ball. Like, really take the time to shut out all external distractions and just be in your body and focus on staying relaxed. Quick note before we move on, guys, there are hundreds of these trigger points all throughout your body, and the most effective ones often aren't where you actually feel the pain. So knee pain might trace back to your hips or maybe your lower legs, and shoulder tightness might come from your ribs or your lats. So in Mind Your Movement, we guide our clients through exactly which areas they need to release based on their movement breakdowns and their injury history. And because of that precision, many experience massive pain relief and movement breakthroughs within just 1 week of doing that consistently. So this is the first layer of the PFP protocol, guys. Clear the restrictions that are sabotaging your system before you even start training. Because again, you wouldn't scale a business with broken back end systems. And the same way, you shouldn't try to perform with fascia that's wound up tight from stress. Part two of this system is to rebuild your frame. So once you've cleared out those restrictions in the first phase, then you're gonna rebuild. And that starts with your alignment. And I'm not just talking about stand up straight and put your shoulders back. I'm talking about actually training your body to hold proper joint stacking and muscle tension, and doing that automatically without compensating, so that every movement actually builds your system up instead of breaking it down. And most people skip this phase, guys. They get a little looser after a stretch or a release, and then they go right back to lifting, sprinting, or whatever other sport they do. But if your body doesn't know how to organize itself under load, it's just gonna fall back to the same patterns that got you tight and injured in the first place. And those misalignments don't just mess with your training, they also drain your energy in other areas of life too. And that's the real reason so many entrepreneurs are out here struggling with brain fog and afternoon crashes and just feeling wrecked from sitting at a desk. It's because they haven't addressed how their frame actually holds itself under stress. So I'm going to show you a really simple exercise that I like to do every single day before I start my work and before I get into training, that's going to allow you to rebuild your frame in the way that I'm talking about. Not going to go in crazy depth here because I already have another YouTube video on this that you guys could refer back to if you want some more details. But basically all you're going to do, guys, is hold 2 dumbbells. Don't have to be really heavy. These are just 15 pounds. Just need a little bit of feedback for the upper body. And you're going to start with your feet. So what I want you to do is to make sure that you're feeling 3 points of contact underneath the foot, and you have your weight dispersed through those 3 points evenly. And then you also want to have your weight from leg to leg also dispersed evenly. You don't want to be leaning on one side. You want to balance that out. Then from there, a lot of you athletic dudes are going to have some pronation in your foot, which means just that they collapse inwards a little bit. That's fine. We just want to work on that a little bit throughout this exercise. So what you're going to do is pull your ankles outwards like this. And you want to make sure that you keep that pressure through the inside of your foot as you do this. You don't want to go so far outside that you then pick up the big balls of your feet. So now that your feet and ankles are aligned, now I want you to squeeze the ground as if you're trying to pull your feet together against the ground without letting the ankles collapse inwards. So then I want you to feel that activation kind of like a scooping up through the inner parts of your legs, up through the pelvis and the pelvic floor, and then up into the rib cage. And you're almost going to pull your rib cage away from your pelvis all around, 360 degrees around. I don't want you to just pull the front up and just kind of flare your ribs like this. You want to pull the whole thing up and away from your pelvis. And then from there, guys, it's really simple. All you're going to do is inhales and exhales, making sure that every exhale, you're trying to get all the air out of your lungs in a relaxed way. And you're going to find that your core is going to get really compact. Then on the inhales, I want you to maintain this compactedness of your core and just inflate the whole thing. So instead of taking that exhale and I'm nice and compact and then inhaling and just letting go like this, I want to exhale and then inhale, and that's going to inflate my chest. I might feel some air inflating my upper back as well, and I'm going to feel this whole entire abdominal cavity just inflate and get pressurized. Now, once you're in that position and you're feeling that, and then you just let your shoulders relax into place from that, then you're aligned, or at least more aligned than you were before. And then from there, all you're gonna do is whatever exercises you were gonna do anyways. So you just find that alignment, then you can do anything you want. You can do overhead presses. You can do, if you want, you could do a bro-y kind of bicep curl. I like to add a little crunch into my bicep curls without shifting the hips to really get the spine working and get the obliques engaged and make it a little bit more similar to, if you were to run, you're gonna have a little bit of that crunching action. But anyways, in Mind Your Movement, we really like to have exercises that mimic the positions and the shapes that you're gonna see in sport. But that being said, you can just take what I just showed you, bring it into a basic split squat, bring it into a basic deadlift, into, again, your overhead press. And just off of the pure nature that you are going to be more aligned and properly activated from your torso and your hips, you are going to experience less pain and tightness, and your body is just going to be better connected and activated. Now for the third and final step of the protocol, once your body is actually aligned and it knows how to stabilize under a little bit of load, now it's time to rebuild you into a weapon. And this is where we're gonna bring back your dynamic movement. So your force, your speed, your reactivity, and we're gonna do it all without losing the structure that you just built in phase two. So most people are gonna skip straight to this, guys. You're sprinting, you're jumping, whatever sports. But again, if your system isn't really ready, then you're just reinforcing the dysfunction at higher speeds. And that's why people feel fine during their warm-ups, but then they'll go and actually ramp things up, and that's when they'll break down. So we start with controlled explosiveness. So you got your med ball throws, your jump landings, your slams even, so rotational work as well. So our goal here is to train your body to absorb and redirect force with the right shape, the right pressure, and the right timing. And then we're gonna add reactivity. So you got your change of direction. And then eventually, yeah, we're gonna sprint. We're gonna do that full speed because I believe that is the pinnacle of human performance and the best test right there. But here's the difference. You're not doing this out of ego. You're doing it because your system is actually built to express force the right way. And this is the final piece, guys, that actually turns your foundation into real world performance. So you're not just strong or mobile, kind of in theory, but you're actually explosive and resilient, and you're fully capable in whatever you do. All right, guys, if you know that your body isn't operating at the level that your training and your business demand, and you're just done patching things together, then this is your next move. Go to the link in the description and apply for Mind Your Movement. It's the performance system that I license to a select group of entrepreneurs and high performers. And just keep in mind, this isn't a general fitness program. It's a high touch, precision protocol that I built to restore full body efficiency, eliminate compensations at the root, and give you the clarity, the resilience, and the energy to really dominate both physically and professionally. And we, again, don't work with general fitness seekers. We don't work with people who are managing any acute injuries. And we also don't work with any current high school or college or pro athletes. This is for entrepreneurial athletes, those who want to lift and run and do martial arts and do it all at a high level without second guessing what their body can actually handle. And so when you apply and book a call, just know we're not here to play any sales games. You're a grown man, and if you're fit, we'll tell you. If not, then we'll point you in the right direction. Either way, no pressure, no BS, just real clarity and next steps. And so if you're serious about building a body that supports your biggest vision, click the link and apply, and we'll see if it's a fit.